If there's ever been a human being that's made me question why I advocate for men or if I should advocate for men, Brian Carlsen is that human being. We all know that it's bad men that make it really hard for the voices of good men to be heard, make it really hard for us to push the issues and struggles facing men forward. But yet, there's a man sitting in the midst of us all that is a predatory man, that has lied to all of us, and yet people keep supporting him. Brian Carlsen has a charge list a mile long. He came onto this app in 2021 as this good man with this widow raising a young son, all of which was proven to be false. The widow didn't exist. The son was his sister's child. He was a brave fireman and paramedic, all of which was also proven to be false. He was a paramedic for about a year. He started in 2016 as an instructor, and he hasn't had that license since 2021. But yet he'll sit there and say, I've been a paramedic for 20 years. But that's not what's most disturbing about all of this. In the last 6 years, there have been 4 different domestic violence cases filed against Brian Kent Carlsen in 4 different jurisdictions in Utah on behalf of 4 different women. 2 of those cases were dismissed. 2 of those cases were pled down. In all of the cases, criminal protection orders were issued during the extent of the trial. And for 2 of the cases that were pled down to lesser charges, the women were granted criminal protection orders during the extent of his probation. And one of the women that the case was dismissed was his own sister, in which that case and the violence occurring to his sister occurred in front of her minor child. And there's documented video evidence, and yet he was still able to get that case dismissed. In addition to those domestic violence cases, 2 individuals filed for civil protection orders against Brian. One of them was one of the women that got charges in that case, and that protection order was granted. The other one was filed by his own father, and they worked it out in some manner, and his father ultimately dropped the case. But his own father filed for a protection order against him. And he stands on his platform and screams about how false allegations ruin lives. But he was never falsely accused. There's documented evidence, not just of what he's done to these women, but what he continues to do to women across this app. But one of the things that he is standing on his platform currently saying is that back in 2021, when these initial charges came public about him, is that I deemed him guilty and that I falsely accused him.
Tammy, on the other hand, immediately said I was guilty. Didn't say that she needed to hear my side of the story or see my evidence because she saw their evidence, and then made several videos saying and demanding that I prove my innocence.
Back in 2021, this is what I said. Is he guilty? I don't know if he's guilty of every single thing he's been accused of, but I do know that there is evidence coming from multiple sources, text messages, emails, court reports, victims speaking out, that there is way too much against him for him not to be guilty of some of it.
Do we know that he's guilty of everything he's accused of? We absolutely don't know that, and a court of law is really the only one that can decide that. But we do know he's guilty of being a shitty human being, because there is so many bad comments he has made. There are so many copies of text messages and stuff that he's been involved in to say different.
And as you saw in that video clip from Brian, he says that I asked him to prove his innocence. I did ask him to prove that he was innocent because he sat on many lives saying, I have all of the evidence to prove that I didn't do this. But he was not showing any of this evidence. He wasn't putting any of it public. And if he had it, then why wasn't he showing it? And if that's not enough, a fellow MRA, a woman that speaks for men, has just shared her experience with Brian Carlsen with documented evidence of the messages and the threats and the blackmail that he sent her in an attempt to silence her. He's did this to her in 2022, and he's doing it to her now. He doesn't take no from an answer. He puts women in danger, but sits on his platform and says false allegations ruin lives. Brian Carlsen, you were not falsely accused by me or anyone else. Brian Carlsen, stop saying that. You are invalidating the voices of men that actually go through false allegations. You did these crimes. You were convicted of these crimes. But one of the worst things that Brian Carlsen has done is he have actively and vocally questioned Reclaiming Your Voice's domestic violence story, one of the most documented domestic violence stories on this app, that she showed pictures and criminal records, and he questioned it, and he had access to all of that information.
I'm going to expose how you really feel about men in this space, or how you lied about a black guy, or lied about being in a fucking safe house.
When he did it in 2022, and he had access to it when he just recently did it on 20 plus hours of lives where he laughed, joked, and mocked her.
Save me, I'm fragile. Brian, why are you raising your voice? I'm a DV survivor. Why are you threatening to expose that I lied about being a safe house?
So it's like, you kind of have to take the hits, because,
well, clearly she can't take a hit.
It's like, well,
So men, I ask you, is this a man that should be representing you? Is this a man that should be standing up and saying men's voices aren't heard, false allegations ruin lives? Because he's making a mockery of what men go through. He is a man that is actively out there stalking, harassing, and hurting women, while standing here and saying this is what good men do. No, this is not what good men do. And he is the reason why both myself and Reclaiming Your Voice are questioning why we advocate for men. Because as we have been able to, and multiple people have documented the horrific things this man has done, there are still men that are going over and supporting him, listening to his lies, building him up, allowing him to get platforms. And over the course of the last 2 or 3 weeks, he's been in 20 plus hours of lives about us. He's posted video upon video upon video on his Instagram, on his YouTube, as well as on TikTok, to the point that he has gotten 5 accounts banned in a few weeks, because all his videos on his page are nothing but harassment of Reclaiming Your Voice, myself, and a few other creators. A safe space for men should never be an unsafe space for women. And Brian Carlsen is making the men's advocacy and MRA space really unsafe for all of the women and all of the potential women that come into this movement and don't know his history and get in his grasp. And he does to them what he has done to all of these other women. If Brian Carlsen is in this space, it invalidates every single voice speaking out. It invalidates every single good man, because if we can allow a man that has lied about his history, a man that has multiple criminal charges against him from women for domestic violence, a man that has had multiple protection orders against him, to sit in this space and speak on good men, then this isn't a space that I want to be in. This isn't a space that I want to support. Good men exist, and good men deserve a voice. But Brian Carlsen is not one of these men. So Brian Carlsen, leave me alone. Leave Reclaiming Your Voice alone. Leave Indigo alone. Leave Eve alone. Leave all of us women alone. Have the day you deserve.